Hello everyone, Charles Coleman here presenting to you a much different video than per usual here on my channel. But before I get to that, first of all I wanted to express my gratitude to a lot of you that responded to my Disagreements with Dave video. Most of you were positive and informative, and we had great discussions about the great symphonies of Vaughan Williams and recordings of them. I think only a couple of you were less than polite. And, e così sia. You can't please everybody. And I'm not deleting those comments. Feel free to take a look. And nonetheless, the vast majority of you have been stellar, and I thank you for that. It's a pleasure to bring this amazing music to light. I don't disagree with Dave a lot, and that's why there are not going to be many disagreements with Dave, because I don't disagree with him that much. But he, of course, has a wonderful channel, his Ultimate Classical Music Guide, and I watch that channel every time I get up in the morning, and he's very entertaining, as I've said many times before, and very informative, and I agree with virtually everything he does except for the handful of things that I'll be discussing about in future videos. Again, not many, but stuff, I'm a musician and we're passionate about this stuff. But right now, I want to pay homage to a wonderful artist that we lost the other day, the great baritone Benjamin Luxon. Ben Luxon was, well, among other things, had one of the most beautiful voices ever, one of the best interpreters of British lieder, I guess we should call it, the songs of Vaughan Williams, Butterworth, Delius, all of whom I discovered, as far as their songs were concerned, through Ben Luxon and his pianist David Willison on the albums that they did on Decca and on Chandos. These are well worth listening to and purchasing. I discovered Ben Luxon originally when I was a kid in, I think it was the early 80s, when I saw a TV broadcast of Johann Strauss's Die Fledermaus from Covent Garden, with Ben Luxon as Dr. Falke, Hermann Prey as Eisenstein, Kiri Takano as Rosalinda, and Placido Domingo conducting the Covent Garden Orchestra. It was one of the first time I ever heard Ben, and I discovered everything about him since. Of course, Ben Luxon was the top baritone of Covent Garden and Glyndebourne, arguably the best baritone for a time during the 70s, 80s, and 90s in the UK. Born and raised in Cornwall. There are many things I can say about him. There's the story, I think it was in 1978, when Ben Luxon and his family were about to celebrate Christmas Day, and the conductor Bernard Haitink calls him up saying, "Quick, can you go over here? Our baritone that was supposed to do the Mahler songs of Wayfarer here in the Concertgebouw canceled on us. Can you quickly come over from London and join us?" And Ben Luxon said, "Sure, what the hell?" And Bernard Haitink sent him a private plane to fly over to Amsterdam, which is about, I think, not that far, about a 2-hour flight, I suppose. And Ben Luxon did them, and it was a televised event. I think subsequently ended up in commercial recording. And then after the performance, Ben Luxon got flown back to London, where he got to celebrate Christmas with his family later that night. I had heard the story before, but I talked to Ben asking if that was true, and he confirmed it. It's a legit true story. Ben Luxon once told me the highlight of his life in his career was playing Tchaikovsky's Eugene Onegin at La Scala with Mirella Freni. It doesn't get bigger than that. And he even got to do Onegin again with Galina Vishnevskaya, which was her last performance on the operatic stage. I could go on about the many accolades he did. Oh my God, he world premiered Benjamin Britten's opera Owen Wingrave, which was a televised opera, which I think is here on YouTube. You can find. Eventually, after he retired from the operatic stage, he moved to Sandisfield, Massachusetts, where he got to work with Bill Crofut, the great folk singer, and both of them did a couple of albums of folk tunes. And Ben Luxon was a very flexible singer in being able to do more than just sing opera, and his albums with Bill Crofut are a perfect example of that. When he came to Sandisfield, Massachusetts, which by the way is about a 2.5-hour drive from New York City, he worked with my father, Val Coleman, and both he and Ben's wife, Susie, co-ran the Sandisfield Arts Center, in which they did a bunch of concerts there. They even did readings of legendary works like Dylan Thomas's Under Milkwood. They did one of my dad's plays there, for which Ben directed, and even I got to work with Ben Luxon. We both co-produced a couple of opera nights at the Sandisfield Arts Center. Basically, I would get the singers and pianists from New York. We would go over there. He would introduce each piece that we would perform, and I would write him a script or something that he could use as a backup, but 9 times out of 10 he just did his own thing because he knew all of these pieces inside and out. Basically he used my script that I wrote for him as, I guess, footnotes or program notes that he was able to improvise off of, and he did it beautifully. And we did this 2 times. I think it was in 2014 and 2015. It was a privilege to work with Ben, a delightful guy with many stories. I met Ben, I think it was in 1990-91 when he and David Willison went to Wild Recital Hall doing a series of British leader of Butterworth, Vaughan Williams, and a bunch of others. And after the concert, which was wonderful, of course, we went to, I think it was a upper area, a meet and greet with hors d'oeuvres and whatnot. And I was too nervous to say hello to Ben at the time, and because he was the great Ben Luxon, who I admired. And I had my turned at one point, and then at get an hors d'oeuvre, and I turned around, and there was Ben. He said hello. He just came up to me and said hello. Very likable, unegotistical kind of guy who happened to be one of the greatest singers of all time. And I can go on multiple stories about him, but he was one of the greats. I have here listed in the description a bunch of links to a lot of the great work that Ben has done. If you don't know, if you've never heard Benjamin Luxon before, I urge you to Google him, whether it be on Spotify or any other streaming network or even here. I urge you to take a look. What can you say? Ben Luxon had a wonderful career. He was a delightful guy to be with, and I will forever be indebted to him for his inspiring me to be the musician that I am. Rest in peace, Benjamin Luxon.